I must say, as and when I was listening to everything that has been taking place, I heard some saying they support Kaizer Chiefs and Pirates. I'm not going to waste too much time. Then I said maybe I should ask delegates what comes to mind when you think of Soccer City. Mostly will say Spiwa Chabalala's goal, isn't it? When we opened that stadium on that day, the nation was happy. But I carry a different view, and as well as other two families. There are those who see Soccer City as the pride of the nation. That is quite correct. But there are two families. When they see Soccer City, they see the lives of their father where they ended. And when we are talking the power station, Midupi, and we are talking Kusile, once we have finished building them and as a nation we are enjoying the electricity that they supply, I can tell you already there are two families that have lost fathers before those power stations are finished. When you go to Durban, you look at that magnificent structure of Moses Mabhida. You look at it and say, wow, what a country. That's well and good. But the problem is, again, there are two fathers who lost their lives there. When you go to Cape Town, beautiful design of some other shape. Again, there's a father who lost his life on that one. I can go on and on and on. I know all of them because I attend to them. Gone are the days whereby health and safety, it's one of those positions that we must just have because the Act says so. We cannot. And the good thing is that I'm a civil engineer. What they don't tell you, or what I didn't put in on the CV, is that I'm also an electrical installation tester as well. I haven't practiced in a long time. I've also studied motor mechanics. I haven't practiced in a long time. I'm an artisan as a builder. I'm a civil engineer. So I'm not only talking from somebody who just have a health and safety background. The difference is I am dealing with these matters on a daily basis. And I can see the faces of the families when they come to our office. And when you look at the magnificent building, you curse it, because that's where you lost a breadwinner. There are children who look at this economic advancement and they look at these magnificent buildings that we have. They don't see what you see. They see where they are lost their fathers. On my presentation, I will cover a few things. We will look at the objectives of IES, Inspection Enforcement Services. We'll look at the challenges and the proposed solution, the regulation in their court. We'll go through some photos that I've taken on site. As we are speaking now in South Africa, it has been 10 years of having the construction regulation. The question is, has it impacted in changing the industry? I'll say no. I joined head office in 2006, but I haven't seen significant change. What I have seen is a lot of copying and pasting of specification and health and safety plan and just documents so that you can get a tender through. What I have seen is that when you retrench, you start with safety officers because they are not that important. We published a draft in 2010. That one I must really commend you. But I think it was because you saw that there was going to be a loss in the industry financially. Then you made a lot of comments. We received a big volume of comments. We are still working on the document. It should be out in a month or two. There are other problems that we encountered. In fact, they are not problems, it's advice that we got that we need to gazette the fact that we have recognized SACP CMP as the registrar for our professionals. I will explain that. One of the key areas that we have to focus to as the inspection enforcement services, and in particular the occupational health and safety, is that 40% of everything that we do has to focus in high-risk sectors, meaning that all our budget as the Department of Labor, 40% of it we are throwing into the inspectorate, because it is very important. We are losing a lot of lives. All those 4 sectors that are there, iron and steel, construction, chemical and agriculture, forestry, we are in the last financial year, and this is not an inflated figure, we spent 2.7 billion rands as a country in compensation. 2.7 billion rand. Construction alone, 489 million rand in compensation. Because when you fall from a scaffold, you break your back, we've got to pay you out. We've got to get all the medical stuff done on you. We've got to make sure that we cover you. If you die, the same. But as a country, if we are spending that amount of money, how much can we do with 489 million rand, just the construction sector alone? The challenges, amongst others, in the construction sector that are leading to these fatalities I'm talking about. 1, lack of competent persons performing health and safety in the construction industry. Lack of management and supervision of health and safety in the industry. I made a joke yesterday and I said to some, look, you wouldn't be comfortable if I make a comment to one of your relatives when they are busy operating their hut, and I made a comment as a builder and I look through the window where they say, hey, watch out for that valve, it's losing a lot of blood. You wouldn't be happy with that, isn't it? Because I'm not qualified to even begin to talk about it. And that what makes you think that if you are a medical doctor or a teacher, you are qualified to talk health and safety in the construction industry? If you don't know how much a brick weighs, as one of my friends will say, then you shouldn't be making specification of health and safety. You can't. You are not a professional in that category. And we have a serious problem. We have people that they just go and purchase false work to support a bridge deck, but they don't know how much does a brick deck weigh. People who are incompetent, when they pour concrete, they pour it like a heap. And the more it stresses one point, that's what happened to Goga. We got a successful conviction, by the way, after 10 years. They pour it in a heap, it stresses the particular props that are under there, the whole thing break. Why? The person does not have knowledge of health and safety while they are pouring concrete. The safety officer is not there to okay it. In fact, as a matter of fact, on that side, a designer had resigned 3 months ago, but they still made the support work without a designer. Lack of management and supervision. Again on this one, you cannot make a comment on how many props to buy simply because you are a finance person in industry. The person who must give you the number that is required is an engineer as well as the safety officer, having considered the size of what they are doing and the size of what they are going to need. Yesterday, I made an example. I said, in the market now, there are props that have flooded the market. The normal prop that we use in South Africa that is SABS approved is 3.35 millimeter thick, the wall of the prop, because it carries a particular load. But in the market today, we've got a 1.8 millimeter thick. The difference from 3.35 and 1.8 millimeter is 66% less weight that is carried. But yet the tables of these two props are the same. That talks about the weight, and that we are talking competency. And we are saying, how do we solve, therefore, the two challenges that I have made? We said, we need to professionalize health and safety industry. And that is not for the Department of Labor only. And we thank our partners, SACP-CMP, because they have taken the professionals in the health and safety industry seriously, just the same as any other professional in the construction industry. And as such, they will be registering 3 categories that are linked to health and safety. And those categories, they will be starting to register them soon. Your safety officers, health and safety managers, health and safety agent. And we are doing that so that we can maintain the database, we can control and monitor these professionals, and we can show that construction work is carried out by a competent and registered person. In the proposed regulations that are coming, we are introducing something called the permit system. You won't be able to do construction work if you do not have a permit. And that will apply to sites that are 4 million rand and above, 90 days or more, or 900 man-hours. So we have been in consultation with CIDB to check how much can we be able to process. And you have to apply for that permit 30 days prior. And on that permit, of course, you are going to put the name of an agent whom you would have got from the database of SACP-CMP. And we'll be able to verify if this agent of yours is indeed registered or still in good standing. And that applied to the safety officer as well. So that when the health and safety plan and the specifications are not correct, we will be able to interact with that agent. On management and supervision, we are going to have now the construction manager instead of the current 6-1 appointment of the construction supervisor. We'll have the construction health and safety manager. Don't confuse the two. Construction manager and the construction health and safety manager. Those are 2 different people. And we'll have construction supervisor, and we'll have again the construction health and safety officer. Those darkened one will be at SACP-CMP. So when you give us that permit, it will be having the registration number of these professionals. We will be promulgating this regulation in 2 to 3 months' time. We have to issue a gazette first that states that as a department, we have identified SACP-CMP as a statutory body, and therefore they are carrying out the registration and management of professionals thereof. Recently, we signed an accord with the Department of Public Works, the Federations, Master Builders Association, Black Business Council and Built Environment, and in that accord, where the whole construction community was represented, we say our objective is to promote good relations with social partners. As the Department of Labor, we are moving away from being like a traffic officer hiding behind a bush. We are not hiding at all. If you've got issues, I will give you my number. Let's sit down and talk. The intention is not to catch you, but the intention is that when you do like the permit system and everything, we want to start a project with you. Hence we are saying 30 days, so that when we give you back the permit and say it is fine, you can commence construction work, we want to send an inspector to talk to your workers in their own language. So as to understand, because some of them, you give them boots and overalls, all the PPE. What they do, they store those boots at home because they look nicer, they continue working with the techies. So we want somebody who will speak with their own language so that they can understand. The challenge will come whereby you make a permit and to say you're going to commence work, whereas you know very well that there's no work you are doing, there's fraud, and when an inspector gets there, there's no site. And we're saying we are committing all construction industry stakeholders to prioritize matters of OSH, to promote occupational health and safety of all persons involved with and affected by construction work. We want to eliminate fatalities and injuries and diseases in the construction sector. Right there, we have a challenge as a country because we didn't have enough knowledge. There are a lot of people who have been diagnosed as having tuberculosis from the construction industry. And when we scrutinized, we went deeper in it, we realized that actually it is not tuberculosis, it's silicosis, which they got from working in the construction industry. Because as and when they are breathing that silica dust from various types of sand, cement, and so forth, it sticks in their lungs. And the problem is that it doesn't show on the first 5 to 7 years of contracting it. It shows only after 10 years. And when they go to our local clinics, because they don't know yet, it is identified as tuberculosis because it has got almost similar symptoms. But eventually they realize that it's something that we are unable to cure. And when they go deeper, they realize that it's from silica dust, it's silicosis, from the construction industry. I've just included these photos because people tend to think we are over-regulating and we are being a bit too much. Just to give you an idea of what our inspectors come across. Now, when one put these photos, they tend to evoke emotion because some will say, are they not aware of what they are able to do? I'll show you another picture that explains that. This photo, I took it from the airport. We were building the airport. That's a 3.5 billion rand project, I think. The challenge here was that I need to protect one of my people that I work with. The challenge here, which the principal contractor did not know, was that they've got a subcontractor, and the subcontractor went on to hire a subcontractor without their knowledge and brought them on site, and they were working. And then what does this mean? We are pushing now the responsibility with the new regulation to say that you must account as a principal contractor of each and every person that goes on your site. I'm told that one CEO of a construction site went to a site just to make rounds and found somebody just standing next to a pole. And he said, "How come you are not working? Am I not paying you to work?" The guy did not respond. Then he picked up a cell phone, he called the little office there, he said, "I'm sending this guy." I said, "What's your name?" He said, "Johnny." "I'm sending Johnny. Pay him his 2,000 rand, let him," the other word that he says, "out of my site." Then Johnny goes to the site office, he said, "No, a boss says I must pick the 2,000 rand. They give him the 2,000 rand, then he leaves. And when he returns there, the big CEO said, "By the way, who was that guy working for?" Nobody can account who he is working for. And later they realized that he was just visiting a friend, he doesn't work there. It happens. Because they don't know people who are working in the construction site. They have no identification. Even if they are wearing uniform or no overall, they can be working for them. Now, construction is not for magicians, ladies and gentlemen. This one is a bit sad. This one, he was working. You see the tip of the calabash, Soccer City, where the shape of the calabash, where it bends on the inside, the soffit on the inside. This guy was dangling right there. They were closing the panels when they were building. But you see, where you see an inspector's hand with a white coat there, there's a piece of wire there. We call it Operation Bogdrat. You see, he was dangling. His life was depending on that. When we ask him, "Why aren't you going to complain or get a new safety harness?" he said, "Look, if you complain a lot here, you get fired. We need to work." Now, if you look at this, now it answers you. There are about 6 individuals there. Can you see them? There's 6 of them. Do you honestly want to tell me that they have no brains? They don't know what will happen if they fall? The fact is that they do know, but because they have no choice, they have to work and provide for their families. They are forced to do this. They have no choice. Construction industry has become modern day slavery. I mean, as a nation, can you look at that and be proud? This is not the Department of Labor problem. It's our problem, us in the construction industry. Now, this is what we call fruit and veg. because the pallets are from fruit and veg. But again, do you want to honestly tell me that these men, some people's fathers, you want to tell me that they don't have brains, they don't know what will happen? They know. But the fact that you can pick as and when you want everywhere workers, it leaves them without any choice because they had to feed their family. I remember that day I was closing one of the sites like this. And one of the gentlemen, not an employer, followed me as we were leaving after I'd issued a notice and said, so when are you opening the site again? I said, I can't open it until your employer complies. He said, no, look, man, you have to open this site. I need money this Friday for the medication of my daughter. And I've got 2 daughters myself. I made a U-turn and I went to that employer and I was emotional about it. And I said, you and I were going to sort this thing out. We are going to make sure that you comply, you are going to do the right thing, and you are going to pay your workers. And I think that is the approach that we need to adopt. As the Department of Labor, we are not proud of closing the sites. It's a frustration stage because we are unable to convince you to comply. Then we resort in issuing with a notice. We shouldn't be issuing prohibition notice. We should reach a stage whereby you understand the importance of life. On that note, you see, the decision between a safety officer and an engineer, a safety officer was overruled. An engineer dug next to the scaffold. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, at BIFSA when I was still an apprentice, when we were learning how to build, I enjoy building, by the way. I literally build. We were taught to start with a foundation, but these days it's like you start with a roof. I don't know.